Survive the move.
Pretty much
many
that.
things. It's like one after another.
Yeah, you survived
Yeah.
just barely.
Yeah. I was like working with Christine, and we got ourselves locked in. We were locked inside a building, and we had to break our way out.
Like really break it out.
We had to really break our way out. We had to destroy a commercial grade metal door in order to get out, which took hours.
Midnight.
2 hours.
We started at midnight, and we finally broke through it too.
That's what I heard.
Exploded.
He literally tore the door off.
We did. Yeah.
But what was wild is like 2 hours of major hammering,
Oh,
and
wow.
nobody came.
Were you able to call someone or?
No.
There was no one to call.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, it was like midnight.
We didn't have the master key, and it wasn't supposed to be locked, and
Yeah.
then somehow it locked. And it's, yeah.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Trapped inside.
But yeah, but like let's write down on like I guess it's the V central place where all the what
Downtown East Side.
downtown east side.
Yeah.
And you know it's midnight and we're like banging with hammers,
hours.
like just nobody called the police,
Just normal
nobody
down there,
just
isn't it?
nothing. Just making insane amounts of noise.
Maybe they did think, oh, that's just normal.
Well, that's what that's what it's like.
Yeah, Amanda's right.
Yeah, but it's so. I mean, if you haven't been exposed to that much, like when you walk out of Christine's office and Jin's office, you're there now, right? You're not here anymore.
No, I'm still here.
You're both. Well, yeah. When you walk out, it's 9 at night, and you mean I don't know. I get the feeling like I was walking into someone else's living room. Like they live there. They live there, and they're getting their beds ready and stuff, all on the sidewalks, and there was an open fire too, like that. Someone had like in the movies. Yeah, there was a fire, and they're all like.
Is it on Hastings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Main.
Wow, that's
Fight.
the hub.
Yeah.
That's
It's right there.
central.
People are huddled into corners doing weird things, yelling at each other, yelling at nobody, dancing around, doing crazy things. What does it all mean?
I heard someone said it's not them. Like, so often we put craziness on them.
Mm-hmm.
Rather it's,
Well, the word itself, them, right?
Well, yeah.
Them.
It's a, yeah, it's a system.
Yeah.
I know.
Somebody wrote a book that's very popular about, I believe, about heroin addiction or the downtown east side. I was talking to Jasmine about it last time we were here, and the name of the book is In the Realm.
I'm reading that book right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Have you read it?
I haven't, no, but I've
Yeah.
I've heard people
It's an
talk
amazing
about
book.
it. I know what it's about. But
Yeah.
He's a brilliant teacher, speaker, if you ever get a chance.
Well, there's one of the stories in the very beginning about a woman that died, and the doctor, came in and found her dead, and he knew from the signs right away that she didn't die from an overdose. She died from withdrawal, and he had seen her a couple months before that in the office, where she had told him the story that her and her boyfriend had just burned through $100,000 of an inheritance. They had just blew it in a month on whatever, on the street. And then she was dead. And so it's like I think it's healthy to try to take your mind there and try to imagine, because each one of us has an idea about what we are and like this persona that we have, and what would happen if everything was taken from you, stripped of whatever. I don't know how it ends up happening. But they all have a me. They all have a me that they see. and they seem to have a lot of time. Is it true? And what do they do with it? Very interesting. What would we do if we had all the time? What would we do with our time if suddenly we didn't have to do these daily obligations that fill up our day?
Some people are very still down there.
I believe it. Yeah.
They don't have phones. Most
Yeah.
of them do, but many of them don't. Don't have money to. They don't go to movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was a time on Earth when there was no cell phones or movies or, you know. So the last meditation, I was talking about the absence of sound. And does anyone want to say anything about that? Like, is a place, a feeling, something within you, something around you, something, is there, you know, or do you notice that it's very hard to talk about? Is it more of a feeling? Is there something that you can direct your mind or your focus towards when I'm talking like that in meditation? Does anyone want to share anything about that?
I find it to be like I'm able to sense it or have my attention to what seems to be, well, what I know to be a silence, like absence of sound.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of my solaces over this craziness for me.
Yeah.
Is in my apartment. Like I have quite a silent life, and then I go out of my apartment, and there is just like noise.
Yeah.
It's just huge noise. But in my apartment, there was a boiler motor going all the time, and had been for months and months. And then through, I don't know, I'm not even sure what happened, but it stopped. And there's no noise in my apartment. And it's like it's a presence in and of itself. So that's how I experience it. It's in and of itself. So even as we're talking, I'm sensing that that's behind or in and around. That's how I experience it.
Yeah. It's hard to talk about, you see. Like stillness, like the word, I want to reach stillness. You hear that all the time. I want to, and it's there's a mental image that's associated with it, and like the even like the ness, stillness, like it's like an activity. It would be more appropriate to say I like to reach still. You know, and because if it hasn't happened for you yet, if you do hit a point in your meditation where you reach stillness, it's not still. It's stiller than still. You can't put a word on it. You can't. It's not a feeling that can be described. Yes, Sharon.
I found it like the way that actually somebody once asked me a question once, and it was really striking. I'll never forget it. He had an allergy to cats, and so he would tell me about he'd go if there's a cat around, he'd lose his eyesight, but then it would come back once he'd be outside of the vicinity of the cat.
Wow.
And so
that is wild.
So he knew what it was like to be blind. And he asked me that question once, and he said, "Do you know what it's like to be blind?" And you know, I was naive at the time. I was 18 years old. I was like, "Well, just close your eyes, right?" And he was like, "Nope." And his response was, it was really striking. He said, "It's what it's like when you try to look through the back of your head with your eyes open." So right now my eyes are open and I'm looking forward. It's like while you're doing that, try to look through the back of your head. It's like that emptiness there. There's a space. and an emptiness there, and then that's what it's like to be
Mhm.
blind, especially if you're blind like since birth.
Mm.
And I think that's what I experience when you say
Mhm.
you know, the absence of sound or even just things like
Mhm.
feeling and, you know, tactile sensations. I think all of that exists in that
Mhm.
in that sense of emptiness or
That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, because it's not silence. It's an absence of sound. It's different. And and just out of curiosity, anyone have anything happen with their mind or their concentration or their body when I said, can you be inward and outward at the same time? This might have been kind of what Sharon was pointing at. Like, did you feel anything in your body or in your mind when you kind of had that thought or that contemplation?
Well, I opened my eyes all
Yeah.
of a sudden, and then I was just like, oh, I'm here. That
Mhm.
was it.
Yeah.
Because it was, when you said absence of sound, that I just, yeah, something hit that I was not thinking. I just
Mhm.
opened my eyes and all of a sudden, oh yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
That was my
Yeah, you see?
reaction.
See, there's no saying it, right? You see that I like reading Osho. He's great and funny, and he's a bad boy too. But he one of the things he said that I really enjoyed was, like, there is no truth that can be said. There just isn't. But what a teacher can do, hopefully, or no, the best a teacher can do really is make you thirsty for the truth. And if the teacher can ignite your thirst for the truth, it will be your thirst for the truth that will take you there to the place that cannot be said, cannot be described, cannot be spoken. You know, so that's what we're trying to do here, is get outside of the mind, because the mind is the problem, you see. The mind is the problem. Not that it's bad, it's just that if it's our point of view, like if the up and down, the roller coaster that is the mind is our point of view, then that's what we're suffering this thing. But if our point of view can be that lack of sound, or however we're going to put it, then that roller coaster mind eventually just loses its momentum and evens out, and then what's left is the bliss of your presence and things that happen in your life are not problems and not problems and not this. It's just what's happening in your life, and you're waking up in the middle of that. You see, you're waking up in the middle of your life. You're not trying to change the circumstances in your life, although they probably will change as you wake up in the middle of your life. You know, everything that's happening in your life is serving that. So that's what's difficult about it, is because we each have our own sort of set of issues and problems and things that we want, and none of that that's all transient, you know. And the thing that, you know, the answer to all our questions lies within and cannot be said. So what else did Osho say that I really liked was the truth can't be said, but it can be heard. Can't be said, but it can be heard. And that's a different sort of a sense of it. And it's that something that wakes up within us and begins to grow day by day. You know? And they talk a lot about, especially in the Buddhist traditions, they talk about having an explosive awakening, some Kundalini experience. And, you know, there are those schools that say that, you know, this is how it's got to happen. You have to have this perception, or you have to have this Kundalini awakening in order to, like, get to the next level. But there are those that do it gradually. They do it gradually, and they just become different. They just become different people. They're they have certain experiences or certain realizationettes, you might say, along the way that then begins to dismantle the mind, begins to dismantle the self. And as the self, the mind, the self-mind dismantles, then the true bliss of freedom arises. And it's like that can happen in a gradual process and a blooming, or you could have some crazy thing that happens and your mind goes bang, and then you're kind of left reeling from that, and you have to adjust because you're different. You're like reborn, and then you have to adjust as and the pieces settle. So I just want to say that I think sometimes there's a lot of emphasis put on a specific thing when each person is going to open in their way. No one person is going to experience their awakening like any other person. So, if you're reading a book and then somebody says, well, this is how it happens, or this is how, it's how it happened for them. There'd be too many books if everyone, so, and if you're not already woken up, in your life, when you do wake up inside your life, you'll know that you always were, because it's just the thing that you are. It's not, you don't have to become. You are that. You are that absence of sound. You are the very thing that makes it possible for you to then be aware of it. See, there's your enlightenment, and then there's being aware of your enlightenment. And if you're awake, if you're enlightened, that's what you see. You see enlightened people. You may see people that don't think they're enlightened, or like have some kind of, I don't know, fog, or they're still playing out something where they're not enlightened or something. But each individual is awake, is here. There's nothing that you need to become. There isn't. It's just an idea. Everything is an idea. Let's meditate for a few minutes. See your heart like a flame. There's a fire, there's a flame. Your heart is a flame. It's a warm fire there. The tongues of the flame. You can feel the tongues of the flame inside your body. this flame is, this fire is nicely warming the inside of your body and beginning to melt your body. And you just allow it to happen. There is the watcher of the flame, and then there is the flame. You don't have to keep going backward into the realms of countless, endless mirrors. Who is the watcher, then who is the watcher, and who's the watching the watcher? There's a watcher, and then there's the flame. And the flame is melting your body. And it's a pleasant sensation. And as your body begins to melt and the flame resides, the idea, the concepts of boundaries also melt. So there begins, a space begins to appear, spaciousness. And then ideas begin to melt. Doubts, concepts, the idea of being confined, the idea of being limited. The idea of not being something that you think you should be. Like cracking apart to reveal a clear sky, a limitless horizon that you couldn't see because of these ideas, but the ideas were breaking apart. Then even the concept of there being a watcher begins to break apart until there is no need. There's no need to know the experience. There's no need to quantify. There's just space. And inside any activity that you may perceive, you're completely at rest. Completely at rest and in good humor. Because the illusion is broken apart and it's amusing. thoughts that return, wanting to reconstruct something fall away, as all your ideas break apart. And all that's left is open experience. Doesn't need a label. Doesn't need a quality prescribed to it. And before we close the meditation, just in your mind's eye, see the other people in your life, see the people that are close to you and those that are far. And can you look at them without a storm of ideas about them? And can you see that limitless space within them? Like an innocence, like an all-expansive innocence, like beauty itself, if there could be such a thing. Can you see it in them? And if they appear not to be able to see it in themselves, can you show it to them lovingly? Can you show it to them by being that for them lovingly? Again and again, patiently, again and again. And then dedicate tonight, dedicate your coming tonight, efforts tonight, to the freedom of all beings, peaceful, restful freedom that is also an intense, joyful experience. Dedicate your efforts to that end. And see it light up everything. See that wish blaze across the universe, alighting all phenomena, all beings. Joy is so strong in your heart. And you relax, returning to yourself. And that's us for tonight. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the presence. And thank you for your presence. Thank you for the presence and your presence. And the presence of your presence.